Hey everyone. Hey Sean, Cario, we are all on. I'm just gonna go ahead and fix this background real quick because all we see is Cario's face. But that's good enough. How are y'all? How are y'all doing?
Good,
Doing all
good,
right.
good.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear. It's great to be back with y'all. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah.
So, I am Jen Wilshire. I am your host. I'm the founder of Lifeline Therapy Center, and I am excited to go ahead and to bring the conclusion of this whole matter. That's what I keep calling it. Um, of Can We Talk Conversation Between the Genders. And I have my fellow experts, my brothers, my co hosts with me, Sean Purefoy and Cario Bullen. I'm going to go ahead and give them an opportunity to go ahead and introduce themselves. So let's go ahead and start with Sean. Introduce yourself, bro.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Sean Purefoy. I am a U.S. history teacher for seventh grade. I'm also a minister and most importantly, I think, a husband and father of
Mm.
six. Happy to be here. Happy to be doing this. Part two has been a long time coming, but it's
Yay.
so glad to be here and rocking with you all.
Yay. All right, Cario, you're up, sir. Good sir.
All right. My name is Cario Bullen. I am a professional counselor, and I also work with providing public assistance. Um, I am also a father to three, and a husband. Which
To one.
which
I
a husband
co-hosted.
to one, just one,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's actually my favorite aspect of my roles, being the husband and father to family man.
Awesome, awesome. I wanted to just thank you all again. Thank you both for being on here. As I said before, this is part two, y'all, and this is just a reintroduction for those who were on before. But I really wanted to go ahead and make sure that we had the follow up for this conversation. It was requested, and people were basically being adamant about, hey, is this coming back? You had the conversation. You said you were bringing it back. You said you were bringing the second part. So here we are, and I'm just excited for us to go ahead and jump right in. So last time, I know we took, I wouldn't say forever and a day, y'all, but we took our time. And, we allowed the space for us to go ahead and to just be completely open because the gist of why we're having this conversation is because that space isn't really always allowed. And so, because of that, then hence miscommunication, arguments, discord, conflict, tension that could have been prevented. Is now apparent. So I want to go ahead and get started. Last time we went ahead and we started with what I called facts or fake news. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that back with some. I had one that I wanted to just review that we went over before. And so, but I want to reiterate it again today and kind of want you guys to go ahead and to just the way this is going to be done. I'm going to give you a statement and y'all tell me if you think it's facts or fake news. No judgment. Yes, your wives and children are watching, but I believe you'll be married after this, so it's okay. Just be honest and transparent as much as possible. So, first one, y'all, is men tend to avoid sensitive or tough conversations. Women are direct and are adamant about sorting through topics in the moment. So, I don't know if anyone wants to go first. Who wants to start?
I don't mind going ahead on this one. I'm going to say
Got it.
that's clearly fake news. Um, I'm the one in my relationship that's more likely to be interested in dealing with this situation in the here and now, sorting things out so that it's resolved.
Mm,
And that's the last time we were talking a lot about nature versus nurture. That's the
mhm,
way that I was nurtured to be. I just want
mm.
things to be done and taken care of. If you ask me to
Yeah.
do something, I want to do it now, because if I don't do it now, then I'll either have it stuck in my head the whole time, or I'm going to forget about it and then it's going to remain unfinished. So, yeah, I'm going to go with
Mm.
fake news on that one.
Gonna say fake news. All right. And what about you, Mr. Sean? What would you say, sir?
I'm going to say that's real talk. I'm going to say that's real talk, and I only say that because Cario and I have the benefit of being educated black men. Um,
Mm,
I think that our experiences have lended themselves to be able um, to be able to deal with situations in that manner. But I think a lot of times historically, and like a lot of the topics that we discussed since last time had to do with just like your upbringing and society. You
mhm,
know, I love my dad, but he's one of those guys. You know,
mhm,
my grandfather was also one of those guys that just, historically, especially like black men, hardworking black men, um, didn't deal with feelings. Like they was just like, we'll talk about it later, or they'll do something else
mhm.
to kind of like sweep it under the rug, or just to change the subject because maybe they didn't know how to process their feelings, or they didn't have the vocabulary to like really express what they were thinking. So
Right.
everything was just handled in a manner. So while I traditionally like to agree with my boy Cario, I'm gonna respectfully disagree on that. I think that like with everything, it's about your upbringing. It's about what you've been exposed to. It's also, I think education has a lot to do with it.
Mm,
And
mhm,
for a lot of my experience and the people in my family and the circles that I've been in, education was not like a huge thing. Higher education, especially. So like those things just weren't there.
mhm. I was gonna
I
ask
was
you what. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Carrie.
I was gonna say it's funny that we agree on the reason behind it. We just disagree on experiences.
Right.
um,
Mm,
so yeah, like Sean was saying, he and I we've had different experiences than the previous generation and a lot of other people, and it brings us to a place where we address things differently than they might. So yeah, the generalization does hold true, like from what Sean is saying, but from my side, from my experiences, it's not true for me.
mm, mhm, mhm, mhm. And I think that's important, y'all, knowing what's true for us. What's your
Yeah.
truth? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? At the end of the day, and that's where we can really be healthy and be more mindful about our stuff, good, bad, and indifferent, versus trying to be something we're not, trying to disregard our trauma, our past, our family stuff, because we may think it has nothing to do with who we are today or how, we show up in our lives on an everyday basis in all relationships, personal and professional. But it definitely does. It has everything to do with it, and we know being experienced as far as being married. I think we're all married over 10 years. I think we're all 10 years up, right? Am I right?
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're all 10 years up and we all at least have two children.
Yeah.
So I'm the lower ranking out of all three of us when it comes to the
Listen,
kids.
that's not a game that you want to win. I just want to. It's not a real contest. So
And so let's remind everyone, Sean is a dad of six. So that
yeah,
and I'm a mom of two. Carrio's in between with the three. But I say all that to say that when we think about how we show up in our relationship in our marriage, and our daily interactions with our children and with our spouses, or if you're in a committed relationship, y'all, you're not in a marriage yet, but you're in a committed relationship, you might find yourself saying, "Oh, my mom used to say that, or my dad used to say that all the time," or you see how you're parenting, and it brings you back to a moment in your childhood. Like, you can clearly see when you did the same exact thing that your son or your daughter did, and you're like, were they looking in my past? Like, and then also showing up. Like, how are you going to show up? Are you going to be your mom or your dad right now? Or are you going to be yourself? And what does self look like? Self is comprised of mom and dad, and so being mindful about how that is expressed in who you are. So let's go to the next one, y'all. This one is trivial. Men aren't good listeners and women talk too much.
Let me go on this. Um, I'm a finesse it a little bit because these sayings they kind of fit us, throw us into a box.
Mm-hmm.
Men haven't been good listeners because women haven't said anything that we want to hear.
Wow.
Um, and I'm not that's not like generally speaking, but I think that where that line came from was like that guy who wasn't listening. He just wasn't in the mood for hearing it. He just didn't want to hear whatever that woman was saying. um
Mm-hmm.
I think that, in my own from my own perspective, my truth is that I'm an excellent listener. And I make it my purpose, and I'm very intentional about hearing what my wife has to say, or hearing what my children have to say, or just listening to people in general. So yeah, that's my truth.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Carrie, and I have a question to ask you both based off of what you said, Sean.
Okay.
Um, for me, from my experiences, I find that to not be true, but
Mm-hmm.
I see where it came from. I feel as though it came from a place where the the wanted outcome of communication is different from a
Mm-hmm.
man and a woman. Um, Speaking generally, um,
Excuse me.
and we men have historically been accused of not being good listeners because they're listening for what needs to be fixed or what needs to be resolved or what needs to be done. That doesn't mean that we're
Mm-hmm.
not listening. That means that we're listening for different things. Um,
Mm.
well, while women have historically been known for wanting to build relationship through conversation, men have historically been known to want to share ideas and get
Mm-hmm.
feedback and get a plan of action for what to do about whatever has been discussed. So, a rough
Mm-hmm.
day, you telling us about a rough day is to us a message in you need to do something to make my day better.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mindset in which we approach it. Whereas us telling you we had a rough day, we're just trying to communicate because what we need for you to do better in this situation is hear us out and tell us whether or not we did a good job or maybe not. Just rock with us on it. And it's just a different hope for an outcome.
Can I clarify, when you say rock with us, do you mean just listen? Just be there. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to comment. Just be present with you when you're speaking about, if you say, I had a rough day, then follow your lead, basically. Is that what you mean by that? Just to break it down for
Um,
people.
it's a just listen, yes, but it's a different just listen than what women have been known to ask for. It's a just
Okay.
listen for more of a okay, this is what I went through. can you believe that this happened? This is what I did. You have any input on this for me to the future? Or yes, I'm telling you. Oh, sorry, my headphones are going in and out. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, so it's just kind of a hear me out. Tell me where I'm at on this one thing. I'm asking you for input because typically a guy is not telling you about his day without an end goal in place.
Hmm. An angle. Can you break that down a little bit more? So there is something that you're seeking, but you're not saying it directly to us. Is that what you're saying?
Nah, well, in a way, yes, but not really. It's for us, it's kind of intrinsic in the conversation. It'd be like, okay, this happened. I'm just venting this out, and now that I'm done with it, I'm good. We don't have to break it down or anything like that. I just really, really needed to get it off my chest, and we're good.
Hmm.
Like if I were to call
Okay.
my friend to complain about something that happened, I'll be like, "Yo, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened." I don't need him to tell me, anything that's like, "Hey, you know what? That's really rough. Those people are so mean," or anything like that. I don't need the aspect of the emotionality of it. We probably are just gonna laugh it out,
Hmm.
decompress, and then keep it moving.
Right, right. But from your woman, you want something different. You would want what you were talking about, that emotionality piece, I'm assuming.
Not
Not
much. No.
necessarily?
No, I want to be able to laugh it out with you too, if you can, and then just and just rock it
That's
out.
fair.
That's what I meant by that. Rock it out. Just
Mm, mhm.
Yeah, I
drop,
think that like
let it out and drop it.
yeah, I think like Cario was just saying like, one of the things that he did a great job of on our last talk was just talking about like us being men being like solution oriented and just like getting to a point, and sometimes like just talking it out, being
Mm,
comfortable in that space to talk it out, that is the goal, you know.
yeah.
And then also I would like to add, I think that we would like for our women to kind of be to keep that in the forefront of their mind as the rest of the our time together for that specific day or whatever goes. So like if I was supposed to um I don't know, change a light bulb or take out the trash or whatever the case is, like because I vented this thing to you and I, poured out my heart or, let you in on how I was feeling, please don't make the I don't want to say trivial because it's important to her, but
Mhm.
don't let this be like the sole focus. Let's not like let's keep it. This is how I'm feeling. This is no reflection of you. This is not,
Mm.
like this has nothing to do with you. Like
Don't
respect.
take it personal.
Yeah. So like if
Right.
I'm in a mood, don't trip. Just rock with me.
Mm.
Like this is how I am right now. Like chill.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah, like
Gotcha. Because if you're having a particular type of energy and you don't need her to bring or add fuel, excuse me, to the fire, is that what you mean? Like, as far as, um, just contributing, like, should she meet you where you're at? Like, this is where I'm at, this is how I'm feeling, versus, rattling some things by talking about, well, this still didn't get done. And when you're done feeling whatever it is that you're feeling about your day, don't forget about that. Like, is that what you mean, Sean?
yeah. I think that because our women care for us so much, and that because our lives are so intertwined, you guys tend to take on internalize like our feelings as like something that you could do better, or something that
Mm.
you did, or like you could just change, turn it around, and that it has to be more. And what I think that Cario was saying, and what I was alluding to, is just like the conversation is the end all be all. If we can
Mm.
just talk it out, like we're good. It's nothing that you did, or there's nothing that you can necessarily do in this moment to turn it around, because it it's an abstract thing. It happened at work, it happened, it happened on the freeway, it happened wherever.
Yeah.
And in that moment in time, we're not carrying it because we're letting it go, we're speaking it out, and like that's it.
Mm.
Oftentimes, even in my own relationship, if I'm having a bad day, my wife will internalize that. You're like, what's wrong with you? You're supposed to be happy right now. Why ain't you happy right now? And I'm just like, it's not that I'm not happy. It's just like, I'm chilling. I'm in my feelings. Like let me deal with this situation. Um,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
when the time is, as the Bible says, in the fullness of time, this too shall pass, and
Right.
I'll be good. But as long as we're pouring more and more emotion into it, then it starts like this chain reaction. Like I wasn't tripping before. I just needed to say something, but
Mm.
because you feel some way about how I'm feeling, now I feel some type of way about that, and then it becomes a snowball effect. And then
Right.
what are we really upset for? I just wanted to tell you about my day and be over with, and now you would just like, you always mad, or whatever the case is. It just escalates into this thing that it wasn't supposed to be.
Mm. It
You
didn't
know,
even have to go
Sean,
there. Yeah.
Sean touched on something that I think is kind of important, that
Hold your thought real quick, Carrie.
oh
I
yeah,
just
sure,
want to
sure.
say I see the comments and we're coming. I see Taina has a question and Greg made some comments. I want to make sure we see that. But go ahead, Carrie, and then we'll go to that.
Um, I was saying that Sean touched on something that's really important, as for one of
Mhm.
the reasons why we don't always speak our minds in relationships. Sometimes we don't trust you to be able to take that thing that we're just in that moment for, and letting us have
Mm.
that moment. You might take it
Have that
somewhere
moment.
that it doesn't need to be, and we don't want to be there. We don't want it to go there. I mean, if
Mm.
I'm telling you about what my friend did that annoyed me, that doesn't mean that I need to go into all these different aspects of it to determine whether or not our friendship is worth paying attention to anymore. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
upset about that one thing. Or if I'm telling you about something that you did that frustrated me, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at that moment, and I'm good. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we can't trust you to let it go. And by I we can't trust you, I don't mean as though you're not trustworthy. It's basically us on the inside. We're like, if I give her this, what is she gonna do with it? I'm not sure she's gonna
Mm.
put it down at the end. So it's not like we don't trust
There
information
you
has
go.
that much potential.
So it goes back. It sounds like it's a matter of trust. Trust is important in communication. If
Mhm.
there is a lack of trust as far as with your feelings and with your heart, your communication is going to be limited, or you're not going to be completely open. And then we're going to wonder, why aren't you talking? Why aren't you telling me how you feel? Why aren't you being honest? Or you went and you spoke to so and so, but you're not talking to me? you know I wonder why I'm not talking to you. So, but I want to go over to this question. Yeah, I don't know if you could see it clearly. It's from Taina. It says, do you
Mhm.
believe there's a correlation between vulnerable communication, the stages of change, excuse me, vulnerable communication and stages of change? Based on my experience, some men communicate to be heard, but not to actually communicate back and forth with intent to learn and grow as well. And I think, yeah, we just sort of brought that together. But do you all want to comment in any other way, add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in a roundabout way, we kind of addressed that. we're just, again, being vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean that anything else has to take place.
Mm.
This is just a peep into my brain. It's a peep into like my heart right now, and like that's all. You know, and what Cario said was like super, super, super like heavy in that sense. Like we can't trust you to
Mm.
do the right thing, because like we're creatures of habit. And in the past, if we told you something and you flew off the handle, and then you wanted to fight somebody, or if you wanted to be like, well, do you want to talk about it? It's like, how does that make you feel? And you just go down all these other avenues. You've already just put up the red flag, and like we're good on this. So let me just tell it to Steve, because Steve knows how not to fumble the bag, right? We're going to give him this information. Steve is going to say something crazy. We're going to laugh about it, and then we're going to hang up and never speak about it again. Or, like
Mm.
maybe a month later, you're like, hey, yo, remember that time you was tripping? Yeah, man. It's one of those, you know,
Right, right.
And Steve's not going to look at them funny at the barbecue.
right, exactly. Steve is, you probably make eye contact at the barbecue. He's like, yo, that's old boy you was talking about, and then you start like, but then that's it. And I think that our women are well intentioned, and by nature, it's in them to care for that thing, to nurture it, to see, how they can be of some assistance. But like, sometimes it just doesn't call for that. And like we said in our last talk, you only get but so many chances to get in that inner sanctum with a guy, and
Mhm.
until like that trust is not is broken. And then it's just like, I'd rather not, because in the long and short of it, this is not going to make or break our relationship either. This is
Mm.
information that you can deal without, and we can still keep on, keeping on as a
Right.
couple without this information. I think that when we are vulnerable in that state, it's a great opportunity for us to be closer and to connect on a different level. But I don't think that it's the end all be all, or the straw that's going to break the camel's back in a relationship either.
Steve, that's powerful. Hopefully, we answered your question, Taina. I know Greg also said we don't need you to fix it or even respond. And he was basically agreeing with what y'all had said. So let's go to our next one, y'all, where it says men's end game in communication and emotionally connecting. I'm sorry. And Taina, if we didn't answer, please send another text or chat message, and we'll go ahead and clarify some more. I want to make sure you got your answer. But excuse me, it says men's end game in communication and emotionally connecting with their woman is to make it to the bedroom with her to physically connect. So basically, I'm talking to you now because I want to be able to get some later. So I want to make sure that we're good, and I'll be present, like I'm going to interact. I'm going to not just say yes or no, I'll ask open-ended questions. I'll be engaging, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure we get to that point as well. And is there, and I want to add a piece to that, is there any harm if that is a fact versus fake news, that a man would want to have that as a part of, as a piece of it? Like, we're going to talk, we're going to engage, we're going to connect, and so let's also physically connect later on or in a few minutes. So tell me what you guys think. Let's start with Cario. Here we go. I'm nervous now.
Okay. Um,
Take your time.
I want to say fact just because that's what people want to hear.
Mm.
And that bothers me that people want to hear that. I am more than just one action.
Mm.
And for you to think that everything I do is wrapped around that one action, come on. That's like that's like saying the only reason why you want to talk to us is to see if we'll be able to, I don't know, pay your bills or be able to take you shopping. That's so gender
Shallow.
stereotypical and so incorrect
Yeah.
about our motivations. I mean,
Mhm.
if that were the case, then why am I talking to my boy Steve? Why am I talking to my female friend a few states over the phone? I don't want nothing
Mm.
with them. I'm having a conversation because we're humans, and humans are creatures of all creatures communicate for
It's
whatever
true.
different
Yeah.
reasons. They
Yep.
all communicate, and
Hmm.
for whatever different reasons. So just to even suggest that I'm so unifaceted is just like, do you? Your issue is not with men. Your issue is with you. You don't
Wow.
understand how to look at men because they're so foreign to you that you just put them into a category that is so far removed of everything that they are that you
Mhm.
really don't. You're actually operating at a handicap, and
Mm.
I don't even know what to do with you at this point.
Wow. Wow.
That being said, sometimes it is.
Okay, now that you got to clarify. So sometimes it is.
Sometimes we do put work into the person that we're interested because we want them to be interested in us as well. That's human.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
one of the best ways to express the value of a man is sexually. And that's just
Real
a truth.
talk.
That's just a truism.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So, yes, there is sometimes that we are approaching you with a mindset of sex, but that is one reason out of, I don't know. Maybe Sean could give you more as far as how many different things that we're looking for. But I'm just like, I don't even know where to go with this one. It's just like, wow.
Yeah. Going back to I when that question came up, I just immediately went to a space where I knew that I knew because yeah, we a lot of men do have an end game, and if I want to get some that night, I know that we got to be in a certain space if it's going to be good. Let me put it that way because there's always the well, I'm gonna just let you get some because you're my husband. I'm gonna
Mhm.
just be the submissive wife or whatever the case is because you asked. But I hate that kind of sex, right? And if I want us to be, like not just sexual, but just like intimate, and it's like feel, like that good stuff, then we both got to be in a certain place mentally in order for that to happen. If we are beefing over, and it doesn't have to be like a full out beef or fight, but if we're at odds or at,
Yeah.
if we're not on the same wavelength, as far as our communication is going to go, then that's not going to bode well for what I want to happen that night. So I do remember times when I've kind of like stifled a relation, not a relationship, but a conversation, or just my thoughts or my feelings on a topic, because I knew that to if I continue to go down this road, I'm not going to get some, you know.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
I do get where that question comes from. So it's fact in that sense. But like Cario said, men, we are multifaceted, and we don't always just want sex. There's so men, we complicated creatures just like women,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we all have different wants and needs, and how those needs and wants are met. They come in a variety of ways, but again, like he said, if that's all you think it is, then you need to learn something. You need to have a few conversations and really explore. I think that's a
that's a whole different conversation. Male sexuality.
Yeah,
Right.
you got
And
bigger issues.
yeah, and that's something like, you don't understand your own worth. If you only think that,
Mm,
like this man is interested in you because he wants to have sex with you, or he's only having a conversation with you because he wants to, sleep with you, then that's a trauma that you haven't dealt with. That's some education that you're missing. And I would question the circles and the circumstances in which that person like grew up, because
mm.
that's just like, you know
Yeah,
you
yeah.
consider yourself more than just a sexual object.
Right. And I agree with what you're both saying. I think though that it's important for us to clarify to the people who are watching now and who will watch that there are some men who that may very well be it for them. Like that might be a thing. But if you're in a committed relationship and you're partnered up with someone who you know like they are for you and you're for them, the hope is that you know that there's so much more to the relationship than just the physical, just as much as you all were saying about that multifaceted and complexity of women, of men, excuse me, same for women, like we don't just want conversation and
Mm.
to be emotionally connected. Sometimes we just want sex.
Mm.
Sometimes the quickie is where we are. We don't need the conversation. You don't want the candle, but no, no, no. I'm good. Can we just go take care of business?
Let's
Do
do
what
it.
we gotta do. And for some women or for women, it can be like that. It's about finding that balance. It's about making sure that you're hearing what the other person is really saying, going into that love language. We talked about that before too. Like I'm here talking one way, or I'm speaking English and you're speaking Spanish. And all the while I'm thinking, okay, because I'm giving my best in Spanish and saying the most romantic things in Spanish, you should receive that. You should love it. You should want to just be all for it. You should be swooned off of your feet. But I'm not understanding the word you say. I only speak English and you're only speaking Spanish. And so at the end of the day, I can't receive what it is that you're giving. And you're here thinking, like, why aren't you respecting me? Why aren't you appreciating what I'm giving to you? But you're not speaking my language.
Mm.
And you're doing all this work in vain. If you would just shift and consider, what would it be like if I tried the other side of what she's saying? What would it be like if I tried the other side of what he's saying or suggesting? That's how we tune in and connect. I'm going to go to Dave Wilshire. Says, I also believe that also as Christian men, especially, God called us to be protectors over the relationship of our marriage. Being the case, we know that the lack of sex could cause our, I guess that would be relationship to go south. It's protecting our relationship as well. Okay. God has called Christian husbands to protect their marriage at all costs within his will. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that it's important that for men and women to be mindful about what is the other person seeking out. And is it such a task or a burden if I were to try to make the effort to see their side? How much would that cost me? How much will that hurt me? What will that take out of me for me to just see or consider what that person is saying, what my partner is saying? But I say all that, y'all, to simply ask this: how can, and I guess we'll stick to women, how can women tell in your perspective that a man wants more than just sex, that he is there for the whole package, for the whole being, and he wants to also deliver the same to her? How can she tell if her man is in a place or in a position where it's, I'm engaging with you and I'm being present because I'm here and I love us and I love what we have? It's not just about the booty. So tell me your perspective. And I don't know if my question is clear. So we can start with
I think.
Sean. Oh, Cario, you want to start? Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, I think I understand your question. How do you know if it's not just about sex for him? If he's actually vested in the relationship?
Right.
And surprisingly, it's pretty simple. The fact that he's still there.
Mm.
Mm.
Because if you're if the sex isn't happening the way that he wants it to, and he still shows up every single time, it's more than that. Or even
Mhm.
if he is getting the sex that he wants and he's still engaged afterwards and in between, he's that's why it's more than that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm also going to just like even enhance this. Like, I think, like, for me, and I think I can speak for a lot of men, like, we always want sex. But at the same time, we know that, like, we're rational human beings. We know that it can't happen all day, every day.
Mhm.
We gotta take
Mhm.
breaks to eat and, go to our jobs and stuff like that.
Balance.
You know, somebody's got to shower. It's one of those things. I think, like, it's the in between things that let you know,
Mm.
if he's genuinely concerned, or if he's communicating. And I think that also, sometimes men have been, I guess, depending on your upbringing, um, we have been conditioned to kind of be distant when, the sex isn't happening. And that's something that I've had to grow in my relationship. And, Key has told me, it's like, yo, like, you're super lovey-dovey when, we can have sex. But, like, if Aunt Flo's, visiting, and we can't get it in, sometimes I have been like a little detached. I don't rub her. I don't give her the kisses. I don't do, the romantic things. And that's
Mhm.
something that, I've had to grow in, because, in the time when I was out running the streets, my mission was sex. And, once it happened, if I knew that if there was only going to be sex, we weren't really vibing on that wave. You
Right.
weren't getting the good morning beautiful text, and you weren't getting the, let's do this, or, how was your day. It was just like, hey, what you doing, so that's a real thing. But you know when a man is like genuinely interested, because he's putting in that time. He
Mm.
is
Yes, Cario. Mhm.
definitely just trying to build with you concern. He shows that concern. He's showing that love. He's asking about, other things other than sex. And it's really that simple. You would think that it would be a more complicated, or, super smart answer, but it's really that simple.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's powerful what you're saying, Sean, because I think that we just really have to take out the time to step back and do the assessment on our relationships, not just on ourselves, but like check in, like how are we? And be okay with hearing that feedback, but not with the intent of, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and get what I want. But it has
Yeah.
to go back to serving. And I
Hmm.
think that, like as people of faith, that the three of us are, sometimes it's a matter of with having the dynamics that we do, or understanding of, hey, oh, there, carry us back, but having the understanding of, hey, the ultimate goal is to serve.
Hmm.
As a Christian, we do believe in that service, towards our spouse in a marriage, in a committed relationship. But I say all that to simply say this: I think that you don't have to be spiritual, you don't have to be a Christian to want to serve or support your partner, your spouse, in the person you're in relationship with. I think at the end of the day, it's like, okay, it might work out for my good. for to just check in, going back to what I'm saying, like, how much will it cost me to
Right.
tap into what it is that my partner's been talking about or saying or expressing that they need. Like, what will that cost? Because there's a chance that if I go ahead and I wipe up the stove after I cook, and she don't have to tell me, we are going to connect. And connect, y'all, is not necessarily just we're gonna have sex tonight. It's also we're gonna go ahead and watch the game tonight. We're gonna go ahead and go out and grab some food. There's no arguing, there's no discord, there's no conflict. Her whole demeanor is just gonna be different with me. We're gonna vibe differently because the fulfillment is not just the physical. Like, I need to know you like me.
Yeah. Yeah, I even think that like goes back to something that Cario said earlier about like that whole trust factor. If you know that as a man, if I clean up the stove or if I do anything to help her in whatever the house duties are, however that's divided up,
Mhm.
it just unlocks another level of trust and connection. That sends that message to her, like, oh, he understands, or he sees that I did cook. I did, throw down in the kitchen and provided this amazing meal for the family, and he's good in that way, and he's assisting me in this sense. And that's just another layer of just like to say like I love you. I
Mhm.
love you enough to not have to be prompted to do something nice.
Yeah.
I genuinely care about like how you are, and I don't want you to bear the load of everything, even in this one specific arena.
Yeah.
Can you break that down real quick, Sean? Though, when you say you don't want you don't want them to be overwhelmed in everything in this specific arena, because, like, speak to that a little bit,
Yeah, so
if
like
you don't mind.
a lot of times because we have roles in our house, whatever that might be, sometimes even within fulfilling, even though it is your job, sometimes it can be overwhelming to do it all. So for instance, like Key, she stays at home, she homeschools the kids, and
He's his wife, y'all. Just
yes,
clarify.
Key,
His one
this
wife.
is Purefoy, my one wife. Yes. And her role in the house, if that's what you want to call it, is to take care of the kids and to hold down the things of the house. Now, while that is her job, and she does it very, very well and is totally capable and has the capacity to handle it and do it at a high level. I know that if she has to change every diaper, if she has to make every meal, if she has to answer every mommy call about, the trash, or can I get a fruit cup, or can I get a fruit snack, or can I get whatever, or can you, whatever the issue is in the house, I know that by stepping into that and like giving her some assistance in small ways, just gives her like a little bit of a break and says like, I know that you're not in a silo doing this job on your
Mm,
own.
Yeah.
I am, even though like my role is to be the breadwinner and to do these things, I can also, it's like that intersectionality thing. I'm also your husband, so like I'm your support. I'm here for you. I'm also capable of cooking a meal. I'm also capable of changing a diaper, and you don't have to do everything on your own,
everything.
even if that is like
Your
your
role.
arena, you know.
Hmm.
So I think that, yeah, I hope I explained that.
Yeah, yeah, you did. Carrie, you were gonna add something to that?
No, I was just gonna chime in when he was saying it. Yeah, just to let you know that you're not in this by yourself. We know that you're fully capable of doing this every single time, but we're gonna step in to let you know that you're not isolated in this relationship. You're not isolated in your role. We're still a team. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
anywhere where we can come together to make things work out, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, yeah. I see that there's a question here. It's saying when by Vince here, like, when is sex too much sex? If there's such a stigma. And then she says, you don't have to be a Christian, but you should want to support them even more if you're a Christian. So when is sex too much sex? What do you all think about?
think that's, I don't know if that's really a thing, but what 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 is the point behind the sex? You know, is it just to? There was a time in my former life. This is before I was married. Like I because of just like my friends and just like culture. I just wanted to get my numbers up. Or just do it just to say that I did it. But as a seasoned vet in the marriage game, I know that like trying to keep up with that is exhausting. Like, I got a job. I got a job to do in the morning. I've got bills to pay,
Right.
and I physically don't even have that much strength anymore. So, like, it's I think that it's got to be purposeful. I think that when it's just too much sex can be, if like I don't know if there's ever a such thing as there's too much sex. Um,
Mm.
but I think that it has to be purposeful. Even if it is just like, I'm horny right now, and let's do it. It doesn't have to be the like Jen said earlier, we don't need the candles, and it doesn't need to be a whole, like anniversary type of sex, but
Right.
it's still gotta whatever the need is. And if your partner is down with it, then definitely get it in.
And that's the key. The partners, like you're both on the same page. And I was gonna say at the end of the day, I would say when it comes down to it, it depends on the persons in the relationship. Because you have to talk about sex. You have to talk about what works for you, what doesn't, what's a no-no, what's a yes, whatever it is, like just clarifying that, but only the two of you know what works and what doesn't, and don't let Jack and Jill and Jamie and Keisha tell you like what's good for y'all. What? They're not in this.
Right.
You're not in it. You're not
Yeah.
involved. And so you really need to make sure. And again, I know some people on here may not be Christians, but I have to say this. For those of us who may not be Christians, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, for married folk, the marriage bed is undefiled, and I just feel like I'm bringing it home, Sean, that at the end of the day, like, you don't have to be in scripture, you don't have to be a Christian, but you can apply that in your committed relationship. Same concept. What works for the two of you?
Mm.
What are you both comfortable with? What are you open to? And if your partner is struggling and saying, you know what, it's too much, I can't be doing this every day, or it's too little, or I don't like it this particular way, again, communication, talk, open up your mouth and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Hey, this is what's not working. Can we try something else? And not only talk about the problem, because then you want to be mindful about bringing suggestions. Because sometimes when we talk about a problem, we may come off like we're also telling our partner, you are the problem.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like instead
Yeah.
of like, this is the issue. Can we go ahead and consider A, B, C? What you think? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
tell me your thoughts, guys. I'll go to Cario because I know Sean and
Uh,
I speak.
yeah, sure. If I could touch on the too much sex thing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm with John on that. And I don't see a too much thing as a possibility. Um, I see it. And I'm not saying this as much as it sounds like a joke. It could be taken as a joke. It kind of really isn't, because
Mm.
the way that sex works is it's just like, oh, I got too much air today. No, you got what you needed,
Right.
And when it comes specifically to sex, the way that you measure sex, there's no upper extreme. There's a lower extreme,
Mm.
and
Mm.
there's a quality deficiency. But there's no upper extreme. Um,
Yeah.
I
I
think
like that.
what people should be more concerned about is understanding what sex means to a male.
Mm.
And it's been something that's been addressed biologically, socially,
Mm-hmm.
to a male, there is a connectedness that happens as a result of sex that does not happen anywhere else.
Mm.
So if you were to, and that connectedness does happen for women in different areas, but it does
Right.
not happen for men anywhere else.
Mm.
It's a brain chemical release. If I knew that we were going to talk about this, I would have done my research. But
It's okay.
there's a brain chemical that is released that actually works with bonding. It's the same brain chemical that mothers get when they're nursing, and 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 they get during cuddling and things like that. But men
Oh,
actually,
oxytocin.
it could be that. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm,
haven't researched
hmm.
it in several months, so
Hmm.
it's not fresh.
Right.
But for a guy, if that connectedness, that specific type of connectedness, only happens there biologically for the relationship, why would you not want to do that? Why
Mhm.
would you not want to have that connection as much as possible, as frequently as possible?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just like there's no upper extreme, the fact that it, what happens to a man in his head if he hasn't had sex in a while is crazy. You saw that man's eyes? You saw Sean's eyes? What happens in his head is crazy.
Hey man, I think in going to Carrio's point, right? And this is, to people who are thinking about, I know we also talk about folks who aren't married, but
Mhm.
if you ever want to like derail a relationship, if you ever want to be on that outside of a man's like trust circle, if you want a man to be like paranoid, don't give him any, right? Because like our minds, I just think about, it's like medication to a
Mhm.
degree, like when uncle's off his meds because he say wild stuff, he do wild stuff, he's liable to do anything, and that's just like a man sometimes when he doesn't have sex, especially
Mhm.
if they're in a relationship. It's something different if you're single, but for me, that's an awesome time for like the enemy to creep into your marriage and to creep into your head and cause you to do and think all sorts of things, like you can't a man who hasn't had sex, within his time frame. Of course, we got to wait until women handle their monthlies or whatever the situation is, but in that normal period of we can have sex, if it's not happening when he needs it,
Without a reason.
right, that's a dangerous brother right there.
Mm.
That's a
Wow.
dangerous brother because
Mhm.
like it's it's funny, like Cario said, but it's not really funny because like when you don't have sex and you want sex and you know that you can have sex, without a reason, everything becomes magnified, like, so like that girl, if you have sex and you get it when you need it, that girl who's got the banging body at the mall doesn't look as attractive, but if I haven't had my medication and I'm at the mall, everything, I'm just hungry, I'm willing to look, all of my appetites are now wide open, and everything looks, that much, sexier, that, it becomes crazy, so definitely it's a must for men.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny that he said hungry because a person that is hungry enough, to a person that is hungry enough, everything is food.
Right.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Someone asks, is there a difference between having sex and making love? I'll let you start with that, Carrie. What are your thoughts?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Um, Depending on what your relationship is with that person. If you're in a loving relationship with the person, all sex is making love.
Mm.
To the quickie in the closet,
Agreed.
to
Agreed.
the candlelit dinner,
Agreed.
Yay!
Taking it to the closet.
it is all making love because it's that connectedness.
Mhm.
Of course, if it's not, if it's outside of a committed and loving relationship, it's just basically nothing. It's usury of you're just using the other person for your gratification, and that's not good in any context.
Mm.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's what a lot of people are doing in their sexuality right now with the outside relationships and the cheating and all that kind of stuff. They're just using other people for their own gratification. But if you're sharing in love, it's always making love every single time.
That's powerful. Agreed. Agreed. Both with what you both have said. I want to keep moving. There's so much that could be said in what both of y'all said, but I want to keep going. So I'm gonna push past that for a moment. But the next thing I just want to go right into, because I think we talked about one of the myths or the things to debunk, facts or fake news. Women need to talk about their day while men need to wind down from their day. And I think we sort of touched on that earlier, and I think that it's important for people to be mindful about. Again, it depends on the person, because women, we need to wind down just as much as men do,
Mhm.
and men need to talk just as much as women do.
For
There's research and science that's saying that it's not that men are not speaking. They're just speaking in various other ways or at other times that may not necessarily be with you. It could be at work. It can be, just on the phone in conversation elsewhere, but that's not to take personally. It's just that they've used up that portion of the words for the day.
We got a
That's how
quota.
I took it when I read the article. Like, there's words for the day. I'm allotted 20,000, and I'm up to 19,899 when I get home, and
mm.
so it's like by that time, and we're connecting. It's like I just sort of need that moment to sort of decompress, wind down, be in tune with what's going on, because sometimes you're just in your head, and you're still sort of breaking down what's going on and how to leave work at work, how to leave whatever it is that you're doing wherever it is, or if you're at home, because some men are at home as well. Some men are stay-at-home dads, or some men are not necessarily working. Maybe they're doing other things. I don't know, disabled, whatever it might be. At the end of the day, they may also just need to be in a place where they just need to decompress, need to process what happened. What's happened. It doesn't mean that, you need to have a hustle and a bustle type of day in order for you to need to be centered, to have time to do that. The day has its challenges. So I want to go into our convo, y'all, because again, we're running out of time. But I want to start off with talking about, what would you say is the worst relationship advice you've ever been given? So if you guys could just sort of tell me what that was. And did you find out it was the worst because you tried it and failed, um, and suffered? Or did you just know off the bat once the person said it, you were like, oh, heck no, there's no thank you, but no thank you. So Sean, we could start with you. What would you say?
Um, Luckily, and by luck I mean by God's good graces, I haven't gotten much relationship advice from people who weren't in relationships.
Mm,
I think that I can't even recall, like, specific. Well, I guess, in my teenage years, it's just like, like, you just got to get yours, bro. You just got to get yours.
mm,
And you could take that for whatever it meant, but it's just like that selfishness. just always thinking that it's all about me.
Mhm.
I shudder at that, like that's something that someone actually said and thought that that was good advice to give somebody in terms of relationship, because relationship, in and of itself means that it can't be like one-sided. I don't think anything that's one-sided is relationship. So I think that that would be the worst. Just go and get yours, bro.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, Carrie?
For me, the worst marriage advice that I got was just keep her happy and everything will be fine.
Mm. Wow.
The reason
Talk.
why it was the
Go
worst
ahead. Mm-hmm.
is because it's impossible.
Mm,
It's impossible for a person that is outside of another person to always know what it's going to be to make that person
Right.
happy. And if she is upset, then that means that your relationship is failing under that logic.
wow.
So if that person is unhappy, say for instance that person even might have a depressive disorder, you have a failed relationship and you feel as though you're messing up. And what
Hmm.
what does anyone want to do in something that's not working? Get out of it.
Leave. Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's by far the worst advice that I got as far as a marriage relationship. That trying to make everything depend on happiness.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Tell me about the best marriage advice you've ever gotten. What would you say? I could start with you, Carrie.
Oh, okay. Um, the best marriage advice I wouldn't say necessarily came from a person, but it was a,
Okay.
cul- a culmination of ideas that finally formed into something in my head. And it's something that
Mm.
I've kind of touched on a few times about grace being the currency of relationships.
Mm.
Um, the best relationship advice that I learned is that it's not, it doesn't have to be a certain way for it to be good. There is no
Mm.
blueprint for a good marriage. A good
Mm.
marriage is a marriage that both people feel connected and they're okay with what's going on. Not happy, because you're not always going to be happy. There's going to
Right.
be mistakes, there's going to be issues. But I guess, let me put it this way: the best advice that I got for a marriage is that marriage is a war,
Hmm.
and you have two ways to fight. For your marriage to be successful, you cannot fight with each other. You have
Mm.
to fight alongside each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's deep. That's powerful.
I like
What
that.
would you say, Sean? Best advice you've gotten?
And I'm gonna take it to the church cliche, and it's just to put God first. You
Mm.
I think that when we put God first, a lot of people don't know what that is in a practical sense, and I think that it's like consulting the Lord on what to do, or taking on His attributes. So if we're acting, I don't say acting like God, but just keeping in mind what God has done, as far as the church is concerned, and we apply that to our marriage. I think that's the best advice that we can do, because when we think about our relationship with the Lord, it's like He's slow to anger. He
Mm.
he sees your potential. He has capacity for whatever it is that you do. He's not always going to be happy with you, but we have that joy on the inside, that like no matter what happens, we can still see it working. And in our relationships, when when times aren't good, as as it's going to happen, it's inevitable that sometimes things aren't going to be going good, that you can still see the worth in someone. You can still see the benefit from them. You can still see the outcome working in your favor. And I think too often in culture, like you both have said, when something isn't going well, our first natural instinct is to quit on it.
I'm
You know,
out. Yep.
and
Hmm.
how many people are kicking themselves right now for getting out of Bitcoin when it first jumped off. It hit that dip, and we didn't really understand Bitcoin, but now everybody's paying in cryptocurrency. You
Mm.
um, or whatever the investment was that people have quit on, and how it has yielded such wonderful returns on it. And I think that we have to apply that in our marriage, through the lens of our relationship with the Lord, because when we follow God, He's all forgiving. He's all knowing. So if we're all forgiving, then we are able to separate a person's deeds from who they are. We're not going to identify them through their mistakes. And that even goes to like even cheating. And I know that that's a four-letter word, and nobody wants to be cheated on, and it's like, everybody's like, yo, if they cheat on me, I'm out. But I believe that we have the capacity to get through cheating. It
Mm.
sucks, but if you put God first, then you can deal with cheating, you can deal with lying, you can deal with people being human and making mistakes, because one thing you can always count on is someone disappointing you. And
Mm.
having that knowledge and loving them in spite of, I think that's what makes marriages stronger, and gives you, like, again, like an experience that nothing else in this world could give you.
That's powerful. That's deep.
Yes.
And I was gonna ask, when it comes down to communication, from the people of origin, as far as our parents, the people who raised us, who we're raised by, if that communication was lacking or broken, do you feel that we're doomed? Based on who we had as our primary examples? Is it pretty much, a epic fail? Because some people feel like that. Like, this is all I know. This is all I know. This is all I've seen. And not just who raised me, but who I'm around.
Hmm.
My friends, my workmates. We know that the divorce rate is high, beyond high. And it's not just in the regular world versus like people in the church. It's like across the board.
Hmm.
Divorce is rampant. Breakups are rampant. People are in relationship after relationship after relationship. I think they call them serial daters, always with somebody,
Hmm.
and so it's like, because of the fact of where it all begins, and really not understanding your stuff and your gunk. And so you're going around with this gunk, and you just putting it out on other people and collecting stuff along the way. Leave that particular victim and onto your next victim,
Hmm.
and adding stuff on and getting more stuff and just going and going and going. Do you all feel that you are just predisposed to may not make it?
I
I'm gonna let
think that
Sean do this one.
if you allow it to, it's just like anything. If your family has a history of obesity, high blood pressure,
Mhm.
or poor spending habits, it's incumbent on you to do the necessary work to do on you. um as far as communication is concerned, um I don't think that you're just doomed, because then we're like the Puritans who believed in, like, it was just predestined that you're going to end up the way you're going to end up. Um,
Mm.
but I think that there is a learning curve. I think that there is going to be some struggle before you see consistent success. But I think that everybody has it within them to be communal, and to learn how to communicate. You just have to find someone that is, and that's why linking up with the right person is like crucial, not just for the success of the relationship, but for your growth as a human being.
Hmm.
Because if you get with someone who's like, I don't have time, and we see this, in culture. I don't have time to for a man to da da da. He's got to be such and such and such and such. And I'm just like, well, you limit your chances. While that sounds like real big boss talk, um, you kind of like throw yourself into like an awkward situation because that guy is not coming, and that guy that you're describing doesn't want you, right? So,
No.
because it's not just about the accolades or what the person has, it's your mindset towards your future partner. So while you may desire that in a person, someone who's already there, who's already on that level, will look at you like a buffoon, like, really? You're just that closed off. You're just that, so stuck in your ways that you don't have any room to be flexible or grow. But you find someone who sees that in you and who has, the wherewithal to stick to sort through the nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I know that, like, yeah, you said that and you did this thing and it might not necessarily be the right thing. But I know your heart and I see
Mm.
where this is going. And I thank God, this is a big plug and shout out to my wife. I thank God for my wife and seeing that in me, because
Mm.
that guy was always there. I just didn't have the practice. I didn't have the examples, or the at bats to really like exercise that. But she stuck with her brother, and now like I'm on. Jen Wiltshire called me an expert. You know, I'm on this podcast and talking to people and giving advice. But that came through my experience, and someone like, like Harry said, rocking with me,
Yeah,
allowing
yeah.
me to fumble and make mistakes, and then it's like, yo, you suck right now, but I can see where this is going. I can see where this is going. So it's really
And that I was gonna speak. I was gonna ask you about that, Sean. If you could speak to that a little bit, as far as how can communication, what does that look like? Because I feel like in a way that might be nonverbal communication. Her sticking with you. You said she stuck with me. She saw something in me. She saw it in me, and so it's like, for the women who might listen to this later or who are listening right now, how can we do that well? Like, if it's in him, what do we need to do or say to help him grow and bloom?
yeah. Um, you're not gonna like this.
Oh boy.
You're not gonna like it. But I
Right.
think that if so just like total transparency, when my wife and I, we met in high school online, right? And because I was just a guy just out trying to get some, we didn't really vibe in high school. We,
Okay.
we saw each other for a little bit. We went our separate ways after senior year, and we got connected about 6 years later.
Oh wow.
And
I didn't know
yeah, yeah, shout outs to Facebook. Um, um, but she had just left like this really huge impression on me, even in high school. And
that.
for whatever reason, well, I mean, God allowed her to just occupy my mind, even through all my stuff. When we reconnected, I was actually in a relationship,
Mm,
and tried to keep it under wraps for as long as possible, still trying to be, out in them streets and doing this thing. And then
mm.
it all came to a head, and they actually ended up sitting next to one another at a concert that I was singing at.
No.
Yes. Um, talk
Wow.
about stuck between a rock and a hard place. And it was like, and it was the worst situation, because it was devastating. It was embarrassing. It was like super disrespectful.
Mm,
I didn't, of course, I didn't plan it to happen that way, but it happened that way. And we had we were driving home from the concert. She didn't slap me in my face or anything like that, but she was really invested in me and really, like saw this life with me and had plans. And you know, she's like, I feel so stupid because you met my parents, and she had two
Mm.
boys, our oldest two. She had them, I brought you around my sons, and they look up,
Mm.
all this thing, just and like let me have it. And she was like, this is, I've already been through this situation with men before, and I thought that you were different. But
Mm.
and she wasn't even really sure that night like how things were going to go. And because I loved her, I made it my purpose in life, my sole mission to never hurt her in that
Wow.
manner again if she gave me the chance.
Mm.
So rocking with a dude doesn't mean just like, having like that blind faith is just like, oh, you did that thing and all is well. No, like I
Mhm.
have to put in work, all of my little player tricks to keep my relationship with her under wraps. I had to dead all that. So, I had to show improve. So that meant I had to, that meant Facebook status had to stay in a relationship with Nikita. I had to tell every woman that I was, talking to, like, I'm in a relationship now. And, if she had to check my phone, and I know that that's like the hugest of
Thing.
no-nos right about now. Ain't nobody checking nobody's phone, but like I had to be, like
Transparent.
transparent and
Mhm.
upfront with her. And that carried over into like the first year and a half of our marriage of just like repairing that trust because it was just so fragile. But
Mm.
she understood that she understood who I could be. And I believe that that's something that God placed on her heart to really see the man that I could be. But it was also up to me to put in that work, to just like, you know like, you're not, Sean, you're not going on a guy's trip to Miami because this just happened a year ago, and she's
Mhm.
not there yet, and
Mhm.
we've just been worked, and I've shown her, and I've, you know and even with her, she had to be the person to, like, if she had a doubt, not be on like, well, what you did last year, and
There it is.
this and
Yeah.
that. Da, 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 da. So like rocking also means, owning up to your part. Like, you also agreed to move forward with this, and we're
That
not going
part.
to, if
Mhm.
we're not going to always, this is not always going to be ground zero for us.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
not, that mess up is not the foundation of our relationship. The foundation is love and forgiveness, and we're going to move on from that. And too often, a lot of times, if infidelity happens, that then becomes the foundation. It's like, well, I forgave you, so you got to do and it becomes like I owe you, you know,
Mm.
Mm.
in debt to you because you forgave me. And it's like, no, you forgave me because you love me, and I'm going to be true to you because I love you, not because you gave me another chance. And
Mm.
that's how you rock with somebody.
Wow, that's powerful. And Carrier, what would you say?
Wow. Wow.
Wow, indeed. Yeah.
um, are we going from the original question about communication from the family of origin? Is that where we
If
are?
you could touch on that, and also I want you to speak to sort of what I was asking Sean about, not sort of, but what I added on to that nonverbal communication too. Like, how do I
Mm.
also show you if I'm hurt or I'm frustrated? Like, how do I, like, what's going to make you want to stay or commit in this relationship with this person and work on it? Not just about what she says and what she does, the whole demeanor, that whole packet, that rocking with you. You
Mm.
need to trademark that. I don't know who said it first, but
Michael
like that
Jackson.
could be like rock with you. This is what it means. This is what it looks like. No, but seriously, but yeah, go ahead, Carrier. So if you could touch on
um,
both. both of them.
Okay. Touching quickly on the communication from the family of origin, whether that's going to be basically the barometer of your ability to communicate in your relationship. Um, while I agree with Sean in the fact that yes, it does um, matter foundationally, and it does like show where you're starting from, but
Mm.
at the same time, just because my parents only completed up to sixth grade doesn't mean that I can't be a doctor,
Mm.
you know?
That's
So
right.
what it really boils down to as far as communication with your family of origin, just recognize that it's communication with your family of origin. What you do with your
Mm.
family is what you do with your family. You
Mm.
cannot
That's right.
hold what happened to you before. You can't hold what happened to you before responsible for the mistakes that you're making now.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so
Right.
yeah, as far as that, if
That's
your
great.
communication is poor in your relationship, that's on you.
Wow.
It's
Mm.
on you. It's not on mom. It's
Mm-hmm.
not on your grandmama that raised you. It's on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and as far as the nonverbals, uh, since Sean mowed the lawn on that one, maybe I could just weed whack the corners or something. I don't know, but yeah, the nonverbals in rocking with you is definitely what Sean said. The coming down on you with the verbal not being the whole thing. You know, that's not the whole definition of your relationship. You're not defining your relationship by moments. You're defining
Right.
your relationship by commitments. Like he
Mm.
was saying, you know, I am with you and I'm committed to you. That is why I do this. Not I'm doing this because I don't want to get caught out again or this is my last chance.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you're not cheating because you don't want to get caught,
Mercy.
I'm sorry. You're just a cheater that hasn't had an opportunity.
You're not a
Wow.
good cheater.
Wow. Wow. Shots fired for somebody. Somebody
Yeah,
felt that.
but let's be completely honest with it. I mean,
Mhm.
if you want someone to rock with you, what that really means in the nonverbals is that that look that you give them when they mess up is not I can't believe I married such an idiot. That's not
Mm.
the look.
Mm.
The look is I'm disappointed. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Remember that from last time? Let's figure it out.
Mhm.
And the way that you address them is that you speak to them as if they're valued. You
Yeah.
don't you don't one of the unfortunate relationship dynamics that tend to happen in marriages is that one person takes on the role of a parent. And that's very unfortunate and very toxic. And it's
Mhm.
hard to get away from once you've fallen into that role.
Mhm.
And the struggle is how do you expect your husband to be present as a man in your relationship if you treat him as a child in your relationship?
Mercy.
It's just you
Facts.
can't have it both ways.
Mhm. 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 Yeah.
So rocking with me is looking at me and saying, you don't do things the way that I want you to, but you get it done. You um you don't think or talk the same way that I do, but you know what? I'm gonna celebrate that because that's gonna allow us to have a more well-rounded relationship and a more well-rounded view of the world. The way that
Mm.
my wife
Mhm.
and I talk now, and it wasn't always the case, the way that we talk now, she tells me what's going on. First thing I do is, wow, okay, let's pray on this one.
Mm.
And I'm with you on it. I don't necessarily, I'll like, here are my concerns, but I back you up.
Mm. Mhm. Is that a form of agreeing to disagree?
No, that is a form of supporting even when I don't agree.
Mm.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really quick. Yesterday we had made plans to go to winter is Christmas Town at Busch Gardens, and we had gotten the forecast that it was going to rain. Um, and my wife, she wants to create these wonderful memories for the family. I love her for it because she does a great job at it. Um, and in my mind, because it was already raining where we were traveling about 2 hours to go to Busch
Mm-hmm.
Gardens. And I said, we went to go. We're driving, and it's like misting where we are.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, because like I'm just like, if it's going to rain, then we just shouldn't go. And if I didn't agree with something, I would just have like this really pissy attitude the entire time, and it was just never fun for anyone. And while it wasn't my intention to spoil everybody's moment, like that just was what it was at that point. But I've evolved, and I've grown in that area to like, if I am frustrated or if I don't agree with what we're doing, I've learned how to communicate better because that's the conversation that we had. So as we're driving, I'm like, my love, uh, it's still raining. It's still raining. Is it raining where we're going? And she goes, no, I checked the forecast and it's not raining. And I said, okay, all right. In my mind, I'm like, she knows that clouds travel, right? So, and and by me choosing to just be cognizant of history and how this thing could have turned out, like I
Mm.
embrace that, like this is something that she wants to do, and regardless if it rains or not, this is something that she wants to do, and I want her to have this, and so we got there, and it ended up raining anyway. But because my attitude was better, she didn't feel like, again, like the child in the relationship, and I didn't have to. It wasn't like I told you it was gonna rain. Why couldn't you just
Mhm.
it could have been like completely ugly, and
Yeah, yeah.
something that it ruined the whole experience for everybody. But we just it rained, and so we still here. Let's just make the best of the situation, and I think that going back to what we were talking about earlier, just like that connection, that trust in that specific arena, just like was really able to come alive. And I felt great about it. I was just like, yo, I didn't fuss. I didn't have like the pissy face the whole time. I wasn't like the Grinch,
Mhm.
because that's we can go there sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, just he hit the Carol hit the nail right on the head with that one.
yeah. That's powerful. Perfect example. Carrie, were you done or you wanted to add? Because
I
we're
was,
beginning to
but as he was
wrap up.
speaking,
Mm-hmm.
I remembered something that I saw at the 7-Eleven when I was heading back to I stopped to get some water to bring to my wife at her job. Um, and I walked out to see a couple in a car, and she was going in on him.
Mm.
And as I was walking to the car, I noticed his face, and he had this look. And if your man ever gets that look, he's gone. He's not even there. All that's in his head is, can she shut up?
Mm,
I need to get out of this conversation.
Wow.
All the things that I could be doing. You know what? I'm a better guy than that. I'm not going to respond that way. You know what?
Mm.
Anything I say is the wrong thing. I, that like there's
Those are the
nothing good
thoughts.
happening in his head.
Mm.
And as I was walking to my car, which was directly next to theirs, like close enough that you gotta kind of slide in sideways when you open the door.
Mm-hmm.
He looked up at me, and that look said two things. The look said help and
mm,
mind your business. And
Wow.
what that said to me is that if I kept looking, he would have been happy to get out the car and yell at me because it got him out of that.
Got him out of the car. Wow.
And I was just like, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, dude.
Mm,
Praying for you,
mhm,
man.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Wow. I think that that's powerful because it's so important to keep in mind, y'all, the importance of how we are hurting and loving on the people that we say that we love, and holding ourselves accountable. And I think this just connects with my final points that I want to go over with us. Conversation didn't go as planned. But this is the way it was supposed to go. I believe nothing happens by accident. There's
Right.
no such thing as coincidence. I think just being a believer, woman of faith, I don't believe in coincidence. So I know this is for a reason and for someone. And I know the hour is late. Please give my apologies to your wonderful, beautiful wives. Make sure you tell them I said they're wonderful and beautiful so they don't come for me. But I wanted to just tie in that I believe a part of the reason why you all are able to be so cognizant of your stuff, so insightful, and it's more than just profound, just in touch and aware, is because you're not doing this journey alone. And outside of, keeping God as a part of the foundation of what makes your relationship work, um, I would imagine that you also have people that you would say are either your mentors, in
Mm.
marriage, whether it's that, they're other couples, or it's a married man or a married woman, your parents, whomever. But do you believe that's a key thing in a relationship, having that accountability? Because I suspect that you all do, and I may be off, but I feel like 99.99% chance that y'all have people that you either say, this is who I look to, and I sort of have the blueprint, and they also check me if, if needed, and I receive that well. So can you speak a little bit to that? And can you also speak to how to deal with if that's lacking in your relationship because one person feels like I don't want nobody in my business.
Mm.
And this is especially with men. I have found they don't want people in their business. So, it falls into what we may say the stereotype, or what society puts out there. Women want to talk and they want to converse, and that's how they create bonds and connect. They build relationship with people. So we talk openly. But in addition to that, if you can also tie in the importance of still making sure that there is a line or a boundary, because you just don't go and tell everybody your everything about your relationship. So I don't know if I know I'm not saying I don't know. My question is layered. So take your time because this will be the last question and we'll wrap up with this. But speak to the mentorship, accountability, lack of, and if someone's in a relationship where a person doesn't want that, is there a way to deal with that? Is that a big red flag as well? And then also having that balance, the boundary, like, okay, just because we're talking to someone or I'm talking to them or I'm allowing them to be in our circle to some extent, there's still a boundary. So if you guys can go ahead and break that down in your perspective, please.
Um, I guess I could start on this one. Um, I am different than most guys in the fact that I don't have a specific person that I point to as far as my mentorship and accountability.
Hmm.
Um, my mentorship and accountability has been taken from pieces of every single person that I've encountered.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
have watched people that have great relationships and poor relationships and use their experiences to teach me what I should do in a certain situations. But at the same time, there are those people. You have those friends that are your peers that you bounce these ideas off of and you kind of get things to be somewhere.
Hmm.
I'll never forget about 3 years ago, bad place, very bad place. I was in a bad place, um, and my friend turned to me and he just said to me, he's like, why when I walk into a room, I know that I am this. What do you say when you walk into a room?
Hmm.
And then I say, when I walk into a room, I say I'm like this under these circumstances and this and that. He's like, okay, see that's not working. And mind you, this guy, I got like 10 years on him. He he's like, see, no, you should not. Your value should not be conditional. Your value
Yeah,
is your
yeah,
value. And
yeah.
if you don't bring your value to your relationship, how do you expect them to see your value?
Value you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that was probably the one of the biggest events, relationship advice, biggest events that I can call on that said things are going to be different from here on. And I just look at things differently. I'm like, it caused me to respond differently, not only to the relationship, but to different smaller aspects of the relationship and how I communicated issues. It wasn't her like when she would complain about something that I felt diminished anymore. Now it was when she complained about something, either we're going to work it out or we're not. And
Mm,
and I hope that we do. And that's something that I've learned about your relationship. Not every single problem is going to be worked out. Not every single one. You might
mhm,
try, but not every single one. Sometimes you just got to walk away and say, you know what? I don't need this problem. Let's just leave it back here.
mm, mhm,
And accountability, same friends. You need to have people around you that value relationships. People that understand relationships the same way that you do. I've had very close friends tell me that when I was going through a rough patch and I was unhappy, that I should leave.
mm.
5 years later, I am very happy that I didn't listen to that friend and that I gave them the get thee behind me, Satan. but you have to have those friends that are around you that say, you know what, this sucks, but the reality of it is you didn't come into this relationship for you. You didn't come into this relationship for your happiness. You came into this relationship for a sharing, for a
Mm,
coming together. And sometimes when you run it through its paces, you realize that it needs a tune up here and there. Or
Mm.
sometimes it just needs a complete engine replacement. If
wow.
that's what it is, do it. It'll cost you, but it's
It
worth
will cost you. It will cost. Wow.
it.
Hmm.
And
But any tips? I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
oh,
Go
I,
ahead.
I wanted to make sure I got the third one. And I
Yes, please.
can you refresh
Oh,
on
yeah,
me?
sure. I was saying, and as far as the boundaries, like,
Yeah,
making sure that's clear.
I think boundaries is a very complicated term that is not fully explored. Yes, you should have boundaries in your relationships. No, those boundaries are not to block the person from getting to you. Those
Mm.
boundaries are to keep you into your place. Those boundaries are to make sure that you are acting inside of the realms of what is appropriate for you and that you don't go outside of it. People think that the
Mhm.
boundaries are there to tell them, you can't get me to do that. Anytime, okay, Sean was earlier was talking about how cheating, some people are like, that's the end of relationship, right? That's a
Mhm.
boundary that you're using to keep that person out. Like, you can only go this far. If you step further, we're done. And
Mm,
any
mhm.
relationship that has a limit like that is not full. It just isn't full because you're not allowing yourself to be completely vulnerable. You're always looking to see if they've crossed that line. No, the line is not for letting people in. The line is for making sure that you stay there. that you like. My boundaries for my relationship is I'm not doing this with her. I'm not doing that with her. I'm not calling her right now. What time is it? 11 o'clock? Nah, we could talk tomorrow. That's my boundaries. My
Mm,
boundaries aren't, well, if she talks to me like this one more time, I'm about to let her have it. That's not my boundary.
right,
So,
right,
yeah,
right.
that's how I see boundaries.
And I was saying also to speak to boundaries regarding how to have the balance of being open and connecting with people about your relationship, but also making sure that your partner doesn't feel like you're just spilling all the beans and you saying everything. But is there a way to have that balance? Does that make sense? What I'm
Yes,
asking?
yes. Boundaries with other people. Um,
Yes.
you gotta be very careful with those boundaries, but not in the way that most people say you gotta be careful with those boundaries. Most people are saying you gotta be careful who you let in, and I'm saying you gotta be careful to make sure you're letting people in. You have to have these
Mm.
people. These If you don't have these people in the relationship and you try to have your relationship in isolation, every time something operates in isolation, it changes outside of its ability to exist in the community. That is
Yeah.
why when they talk about abusive relationships, one of the first things that they do is the abuser will isolate you, because
Mm-hmm.
if they can disconnect you from the environment, you'll stop recognizing when something's going wrong.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing for relationships. If you have your relationship in isolation, you'll stop recognizing when you're not healthy anymore,
Mm.
where your relationship is toxic. So yeah, you need to definitely let people in. Does that
Mm.
mean that you let everyone in? No, no, absolutely not. You don't let everyone in.
Right.
But you have to make sure that you're letting people in that are like Steve that we've been talking about, who's not gonna bring it up again when he sees your wife. You know,
Right.
Right,
my
right,
best friend Pierre, he comes over my house pretty often now, and when I complain to him about something that my wife and I are going through, he never brings it up. Never.
and doesn't treat her any differently, right?
Never. Not
Mm-hmm.
once.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's at the point where my wife comes to him with her issues, not knowing that there are some aspects of the issues that she comes to him with that he's not in agreement with and that he doesn't really like about it. But what
Mm.
he does is that he's like, I am still here for y'all.
Mm.
So
A
regardless
neutral
of whether I
party.
like it or I don't like it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for
Mm-hmm.
y'all. And that's the type of person you need to let the walls down for. Let them in.
Yeah, yeah, that's good stuff right there, Carrie. I'm so glad this gets recorded. I'm going back. I don't know about y'all who are still here. I know it's been a while, but I'm going back to get some of these gems that have been dropped. Sean, if you could go ahead and tell us your thoughts on that. So,
Um, can you give me the run? I was so
yes.
engulfed in, I forgot. Yeah.
No, I know, I
It happens,
know.
man.
Maybe I'll be speaking, man.
Accountability. It's the accountability, the mentorship. Like I was saying, really, I believe that you both have that in your life. Like, is
Yes.
that fair? Is that fair to say? Is that true for you? How do you have that? What would you say to someone who wants to have that and maybe the partner is not a fan, hesitant to really get down like that? And then in accountability, how do you still make sure though that there are boundaries? Person is not, you
Yes.
know, trampling into your relationship. But go ahead.
Right. I definitely have had mentors um in my relationship. Key's dad, Mr. Hall, who has gone on to be with the Lord. He was a great mentor. My
Mm,
dad is also a great mentor as far as advice is concerned. My mom was also a great mentor, and just as far as like things that I could, just give them, you know, ask them a question about a situation that's going on in my family. Also, Key's stepmom, Mrs. Hall. He's also a great mentor. My friend Troy Bell was a great mentor for me. Just as far as just like people who have been there, seen that, done that, and can just give you um, just wisdom on the situation. They don't necessarily say that it's the end all be all, but it's just like,
Mm,
when I was there, this happened. And like, you can choose however you want to do with it, but it's been my experience that blah 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 blah.
right.
um, as far as accountability is concerned, I do have friends that do hold me accountable, and it's just that I even my friend Troy holds me accountable, and because Cario said something that was so poignant. It was like, you need a friend that's invested. He might be like your homeboy, but like is invested in y'all.
Yes,
Like, it's
the
the invested
relationship.
in y'all thing that is what's
Hmm.
going to separate, the friends that you need in your life, as far as the growth of your marriage or relationship is concerned, versus just the friends that you have a good time with, and you can share those experiences with. But Troy, because he has embraced my Key as a sister, and because he loves me, and because he wants us to do well. There's
Yeah.
been plenty of times when he's just like, "Hey, yo, Sean, like, you are tripping. Like, you are dead wrong in this situation." And he's not. We love each other in that sense, and I'm that guy for him as well. It's like, we love each other in the sense. It's like, we're not gonna sugarcoat it. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna just be yes men to one another.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, if you're wrong, you're wrong. And just going back to what we were saying earlier, as far as like getting things out, like, your man's is gonna call you on the thing that you're wrong on. We're not gonna dwell on it. We're not gonna hold it against you as like you're the worst person ever, but this also needs to be brought to a head. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get it out. We're going to come up with some solutions, and then just like let that be that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, and I also, I just gotta agree with Pastor Cario, as far as like, you
Bishop.
gotta you gotta have, you can't do life in isolation.
Yes.
Even from a different standpoint, like, if you feel like you have set these boundaries because you don't let people in, you're not really you're not really keeping people out anyway, because we can see you. Like, we can see the awkwardness. We can see the toxicity. We can see when we're all at a game night, and y'all just have this impromptu argument over rules. We can see the non-hand holding. We can see all of those things. So whether you think that you're setting boundaries, you live in a glass house when you're out in public. We
Mm,
can see, we can see it. And but it is very important to have that one person, or that group of people that you trust wholeheartedly, are there for your benefit. That's why it's very important that, like, your friends become our friends.
mm,
Important
mhm.
that the people who mean the most to you, also have a vested interest in the person that you're connected with through life, for life. And I think that it's also very important that when and it's important to have people that are invested in the both of you, because if there's a problem and you always run into your friends with the problem that you're going through with your spouse, then it creates that single story, um, of
Mm,
who your spouse is. So if all I do is tell my friend that my wife gets on my nerves, or that she can't be, she's irresponsible with this, or that my husband does this, and that blah blah blah, whatever the negative is, that's all they see them as. So, and if I only know the negative of this person, I can't, the advice becomes like a false positive. Like, while,
mm.
while my intentions are good, I
Wow.
only see this person as an enemy, or as this person who does my friend wrong. And because of that single story, then that's when the issues start to happen. And then when you at the
Right.
cookout, they don't have that wisdom like Steve has, where they're unable to like separate
The
the issue from
filter.
the person.
Yeah.
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 They don't have that
Mhm.
filter. So when they see him by the potato salad, it's just like, yeah, so I heard you was doing da 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 da, blah 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 blah. And it
Right.
becomes an issue. And then you lose trust with your partners, because it's like,
Yeah.
that happened 3 months ago. Why is he still on that? Not
Mm,
knowing all of the other, like, wonderful things that have happened,
right.
outside of the negative. So
Um,
yeah.
That's powerful. But and then I guess last thing, could you speak to what, and I don't know, I didn't hear too much of that from you, Cario, but this will be our final thing. What do you do if you're in a relationship where a person doesn't want to have that accountability? Is there any advice, or what would
Don't
you
do
say?
it. Don't do it. Like, that's why counseling prior to marriage, is important. That's why hooking up with the right person, having a spirit of discernment, praying and actually going to God, and like really getting to know someone, like the
At the
crux of a
core.
person,
Yeah.
is so
Hmm.
so very important. Because like, if I can't deal with anyone in any type of relationship in any capacity who can't be held accountable, because it's just going to die anyway. So why waste our time? And
Yeah.
that's just a that's a never it's a no-win situation for eternity. So
Yeah.
just don't do it.
Okay. Yeah. I have received. What would you say, Cario?
Um, Definitely full support of what Sean said. Don't do it. But I am going to say something different for those who are already in it.
Mm,
Don't give up on it,
Mm,
because the relationship has you and that other person. And the fact of the matter is, when you're in a relationship with someone, it changes you over time. And if you are the stalwart support, eventually that's going to change something in the other person. It has no
mm,
choice. I mean, even in my parents' own relationship, the way that my father spoke about my mother at the end, when he was strongly against her religious convictions when I was really small, the way that he spoke about her right before he got sick, he just he just couldn't put it into words. He's like, there's something about that woman,
mm,
mm,
and it
mm.
changed him. So, I'm not saying to stay in a relationship that's abusive or detrimental to you as a person. What I'm saying is, if the person is difficult, stay strong and be there, and you will be surprised what you are able to change in that person just by being the person that they need, and being the person that does does things in the way that make makes it better, because they see you. They have no choice but to see you. They see you. And if your influence can change that person and you refuse to give it to that person, then the decline of the relationship is just as much your fault as it is there.
Hmm. Facts. That's true. And to wrap up, y'all, there is so much more to say, but so little time. Um, I would say that it's important to know that counseling, going back to what Sean was saying, so I'm combining what Sean and Carrie are saying, go for yourself. Even if this person, because if they're one who doesn't want to be accountable to a mentor or to a group, if you have life groups at church, or you even have friends, let's say you're not in church or you don't identify with a particular faith, but you have other couples that you guys vibe with, and it's like, okay, let's go have couples night with them, and they're like, nah, I'm good, I don't want them asking me personal questions, finding out about our stuff. Someone like that, you need to go ahead and identify your own stuff in this, because how did you get here? How did you get here to the point? Because they didn't happen to be like this overnight. And if y'all been in a relationship for quite some time and this is who they are, this has been here. And it's just a matter of whether or not you were tapped in, or something shifted in you and you didn't pick up on it before, or your eyes are open now. But essentially, take care of you. Identify what it is that you need to do to be the better person, the bigger person, how to have the strength to do that. And at the end of the day, decide, okay, if I'm staying in this relationship, and especially if it's a marriage, if I'm staying committed in this marriage, then I need to know what it is that I need to be equipped with, what skills, whether it's patience, tolerance, grace that Cario mentioned before, just having again, the riding with you, that Sean and Cario established here. We got to trademark that, y'all. But essentially, what does that mean for you to do in this relationship? And if you can't do it, being honest about that too, because you don't want to go ahead and remove or be robbed of your blessings as much as the other person being robbed of theirs. I
Right.
don't sit here and condone divorce, nor do I condone or say that someone should stay in a marriage just because.
Mm.
But I think it's just important to know the options. Be mindful that whatever it is that you decide to do, to stay or to go, you exhausted all resources. You can't walk away saying you didn't try. I tried. I can say that I tried. I can say at least I went to counseling and my counselor helped me identify blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
At least, I went and I spoke to this person, or I went to this retreat, or I read these books, or I brought these things home and we worked on it. And if it worked, great, awesome. If it didn't, then we got to assess and figure out next steps, because you can't stay in a place of thinking that, okay, I can eventually change him, or I can eventually change her, or I'll just have to change, and then you're not genuine about it and you're bitter and resentful, because
Hmm.
that will show up too. If you're trying to
Absolutely.
stay in this to have peace and harmony and say, for the sake of having peace and harmony, I'm just going to be here, you're not really in it. If you're not in it, be honest about the fact that you're not in it
Mm.
you know so I do want to just let you guys have any final words, anything at all you want to say before we go ahead and wrap up and end, and then we shall conclude. Carrie, you could go first. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I guess my closing thought would be relationships are dangerous
Mm.
because they require vulnerability. Um, if you want a safe relationship, then you don't want a real relationship. You want a
Yeah.
relationship that actually is going to be as deep as it can possibly be and as fulfilling as it possibly can be. All of your preconceived this has to be's have to go out the window. And all
Mm.
of that, I'm not giving them this part of me, has to go out the window. From every aspect and every area of your life, everything that you withhold, you're not withholding just from that person, you're withholding from anything that you could potentially be. Give
Mm.
everything into your relationship, from communication, which is what we mainly focused on, to um, your finances, your emotions, your aspirations, all of it. Put it all on the table. And if you don't, then whatever limits you have in the relationship, that's on you.
Mm. Wow. Thank you for that. Sean, what would you say?
Being that the title of this talk is "Can We Talk?" Um, my closing thought is, like, I hope you do talk,
Mm.
and you'll come to find out there's so much that can be uncovered and discovered about a person, so much of yourself that can be explored. I think relationships, especially marriage, is a wonderful way to truly come into the fullness of who you are as a person, because when you become married, or becoming a relate. I'm just say marriage because I'm pushing for marriage. I'm team marriage. But when you get married, you give yourself the opportunity to really like exhaust who you are as a being. You don't know how much love you really have until you've devoted all love to one person, despite the
Mm,
faults, despite the ups and the downs. And when you realize that capacity that I have the ability to love, or I have the gift to love someone when they are a complete butthead, you know, or they do dumb stuff,
mhm.
and still love them. And that's a superpower, man, and it's
Yeah,
the most
yeah.
beautiful thing
Wow.
in the
Actually,
world.
that's
And
powerful.
I just really
Superpower.
implore anyone who's watching this,
Mm.
watching the playback, to talk. Find that person. Get guidance from your mentors. Pray about it. Get to know someone really, really well, and see if it's for you. And when you find that person, it's going to be magical, and you're going to be like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah.
Even with all of the nonsense, you know,
Yeah.
to me, it's been the greatest investment in I've ever made in my life. And the Bible even speaks on that. A man, he who findeth a wife
Good luck.
finds a good thing and is
Mhm.
blessed of the Lord. So like as men, even bringing it back to the church, when we find that good thing, when we find our wives, they become our channel of blessings.
Mm.
I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I love being blessed, and that's how I'm to to view me. So please
That's
talk.
awesome. Thank y'all so much, both of you, for sharing. You not only gave what I believe is your expertise, and I will give y'all all the credit in the world, more credit than you might think you might deserve. But really, truly, I respect your perspective, your experience, who you are, how you show up in the world. And also for sharing some personal stuff too. I know that's not easy to be open to the world or whoever's watching, because once it's on the internet, it lives forever. So, but I just want to thank you both humbly from the deepest part of my heart and from my mind for sharing and giving your perspective. And you are welcome to come back anytime or to bring up anything at all. Appreciate y'all so much. So,
Yes, yes. Thank you
Not a
for having
problem.
me.
of
Enjoy this.
course,
We got more questions, so it's probably gonna be a part three. We'll
I'm with
see.
it. I'm with
I
it.
think I
I love
think
talking to y'all. So this is awesome.
Absolutely.
I know this vibe
Absolutely.
is so pure. It's so real. I love it. And
Yeah.
thank you to everyone who went ahead and you put your questions out here, your comments. And for those of you who couldn't or didn't, I hope you received something. And for those of you who are going to catch the replay, I hope you definitely are just really intrigued and just feel informed and enlightened about what we were speaking on and encouraged to talk. As Sean said, can we talk? Yes, we will talk,
Yes.
and so thank you for being a part of this talk. You all have a blessed rest of your day, evening, wherever you are in the world, and take care and be safe. Bye, y'all.
Peace.